Welcome back to A Few Bits of News. I'm TB Sliver, and today we're going over a few bits of news from the gaming industry and adjacent areas over the past week. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and get subscribed below. It really helps the channel and means you won't miss anything new in the future. Now let's get to the news. After Ubisoft's Ghost Recon anniversary disappointment we covered last week, the team over at Ghost Recon Breakpoint announced its next update via YouTube, Operation Motherland. This content is set after the events of the original content drops, and Nomad left the island, leaving it vulnerable to nations interested in it for its tech and being a tempting strategic target. In comes the CIA and Karen Bowman to help root out the interlopers and turn it over to Ito and the Outcasts. This alternative story content is called Conquest Mode, where players are tasked with retaking the island from its new occupants by destabilizing each area and taking down each area's lieutenants. A small twist in its content is that players can choose the order of which to deal with the content, leading to things like decreased drone presence and increased outcast presence. The invading forces will be bringing along a few familiar faces, as longtime Ghost rivals Bodark faction returns, who come with their own troop types, returning along with the iconic series equipment the Optical Camo, which unlocks for use in the main story once acquired. Other additions include the level cap being raised from 30 to 99, along with the bringing a mastery system to the game to allow deeper specializations into weapons and skills. Finally, the update does come with its own batch of weapons, customizations and skin rewards as you play this mode, but for everyone as part of the anniversary, iconic characters John Kozak of Future Soldier, Alicia Diaz of Ghost Recon 2 and Scott Mitchell of Advanced Warfighter will be returning as free skins for the game. This update drops tomorrow, November 2nd. In other Ubisoft news, the Division 2 players on the other hand were disappointed to learn their batch of content has been delayed until the start of 2022. This is disappointing as the team announced the game was due for its biggest update to date to land at the end of this year, following reruns of the seasonal content story cycle. Instead, the team delivers details of the content to expect, starting with a specialization revamp. The team had felt that as everything in the current tree was required, it never really allowed the players to make their characters their own. So going forward after the update, the system will split into two different systems. The specialization itself will be turned into a linear level system, unlocking the current skill variants, specialization sidearm and upgrades, and signature weapon power as its levels. Along with those rewards, specialization points will be awarded to place in the new second specialization tree, focusing on three elements: signature weapons, armor kits, and grenades. This is where the player choices come into play, as there will not be enough points to cover the tree. Because of these changes, specialization weapons will be reintroduced to PvP, and specialization mods, once unlocked, will now be used across all specializations instead of being tied to the one. More news about the update will be unveiled before the update drops some point next year. Ubisoft also held an investor call last week, celebrating the fact that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is its second highest profit generating game, which is no surprise considering the game has entered a second year of content. That's not common with Ubisoft titles, and being the IP's biggest launch in the series, reaching that goal under 12 months, and seeing higher revenue per day per user, and record engagement for the Siege of Paris expansion. Tucked in the middle of the investor call was news on the assumed missing Division Heartland. This is still in active development, however, the game has been pushed back to expected release of financial year 2022-2023. This is the same release window as the long-delayed Skull and Bones, Avatar Frontier of Pandora, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Roller Champions, and Rocksmith Plus. The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake, however, continues to be delayed further still with a tweet, but no expected release day. All this for Ubisoft would be all well and good if it wasn't for the elephant in the room of the company continuing to fail to deliver to its staff members' needs over the company's harassment reports, something barely touched upon in the investors' call. In a damning report from Kotaku, who went into detail over the years the situation has gone on, a AbetterUbioft representative informed them they were hoping the workers' demands were addressed during a series of remote presentations a few weeks ago, only for it to not happen and to be told, trust the process. This isn't the first time this year we've mentioned AbetterUbioft, as during the first part of the Activision Blizzard's own harassment saga, the Ubisoft workers announced their solidarity with the ABK workers, including their own open letter to their own management, citing even then the lack of action Ubisoft has taken. High-profile staff have been let go, and company head Yves Guillemot has addressed the issue publicly several times. Krem still remembers when his first statement was made, barely acknowledging it, citing lack of time to go into detail during the start of its pre-recorded press event. Boy, did the blowback happen on that one. However, the company still remains the same internally, with the article citing at the end, "No matter how the head of Ubisoft wants things to change, the problem we'll run into for a long time is that people in power, directors and managers, are from the old guard, so even with the best intentions, issues are still happening." We'll leave the article and a direct link to AbetterUbisoft's Twitter account in the description. As always, much like with the Activision Blizzard, if we get any more information, we'll update you. Finally, in our accidental Ubisoft block, some Far Cry 6 fans also got rubbed the wrong way last week as an email blast from the El Presidente of the game mocked players with their low game time in-game. Whereas some outlets tried to spin it as marketing to push MTX, if you go further into the Twitter feed, which we have in the description, another user pointed out that it's just an email summarising the player's stats within the game, although others took light to the idea and mocked up what other developers would email a failing player. Either way, it's not the best time to joke around with PR stunts when the eyes of the media are looking in your direction. With AbetterUbisoft out of the way, let's talk about the predecessor movement that started it all, AbetterABK and the recent developments in the Activision Blizzard lawsuits. The development started on October 19th, when Activision Blizzard put in an expedited request that the ongoing lawsuits with California's DFEH be moved to a separate court as well as be paused to allow the company to examine the DFEH's alleged ethical violations. If none of this rings any bells, we covered the allegations the week before last. A link to that video is up on screen now. As a quick recap though, Activision Blizzard is up to their neck in harassment allegations. Currently, the company is stuck in the middle of California's DFEH, who is squabbling with the US EOC. The most recent development between the two legal giants was the reveal that the DFEH had used former EOC lawyers, which is kind of against the state of California's rules. This is of course simplified, so make sure to check out our full coverage and links in the description down below. Fast forward to last week, and Activision Blizzard's effort to stall the case came up empty. Their request within the Los Angeles Superior Court was formally denied on October 22nd. Presiding Judge Timothy Patrick Dillon gave no reason for the denial. It's important to note though that the denial was for the expedited decision, and this still gives the company the opportunity to look into the alleged ethical allegations, among other topics. Also occurring last week was the company's first real statements concerning the DFEH and EOC battle. In an internal letter to employees, as reported by Wowhead on October 20th, Chief Compliance Officer Francis Townsend reported that more than 20 individuals had been fired for misconduct and another 20 plus are facing disciplinary action, with more changes promising to come. Many people online balked at the statements given to Financial Times in an interview due to her past behaviour. Townsend, but a few months ago, was caught blocking Activision Blizzard employees on Twitter who were speaking up against the harassment, the backlash eventually leading to her deleting her Twitter account entirely. Her support for the employees now comes off as hollow and disingenuous. In her interview, we'll link it in the description, but it does require a subscription to read, Townsend explained that the investigation so far found that the majority of misconduct occurred during the off-site gatherings involving alcohol, but this wouldn't stop them from being addressed due to the impact these offences had in the workplace. There was also a distinction between patterns of misconduct which led to immediate terminations and one-off instances that had been rectified with other disciplinary actions and training. No names were given for legal reasons, but she reported that among the 40+ individuals, they included several game developers and a few supervisors, though none of them were from the company's board or senior management. While Townsend's letter to employees is a bit too big to show on screen, we'll throw some important highlights sectioned out by Wowhead on the screen now. Zero tolerance for retaliation, more jobs created for the ethics and compliance team, company transparency, and more training resources. Fast on the heels of Townsend's internal correspondence, an interview came likely the biggest Blizz-related news this week, a Blizzcon announcement and a letter from CEO Bobby Kotik. To no one's surprise at this point, Blizzcon Line has been cancelled. I really hate that name. The announcement, posted on October 26th, stated that the energy going into producing the convention, which is normally held every year, is better put to work supporting their team and progressing development of their games. Part of the statement, the full one linked in the description, reads, "The first BlizzCon was held 16 years ago, and so much has changed in the times since. Most notably, the multiple ways in which players and communities can come together and feel like they are part of something bigger. Whatever the event looks like in the future, we also need to ensure that it feels as safe, welcoming and inclusive as possible. We're committed to continual communications with our players, and we see BlizzCon playing a big role in that going forward. We're excited about what we'll do with the event when we revisit it in the future. The statement also stressed that development on their games will continue, even if they aren't showing it off on a giant stage like they always do. Following the BlizzCon announcement was Bobby Kotick's letter, posted on the Investor Activision website on October 28th and sent out to all employees. Also a bit too big to put up all on screen at once, we'll cover some of the important highlights. Kotik started the letter out by thanking his employees for their service and dedication throughout not just the last couple of months with the lawsuits, but also for their hard work throughout the pandemic. Then he apologises. The guardrails weren't in place everywhere to ensure that our values were being upheld. In some cases, people didn't consistently feel comfortable reporting concerns, or their concerns weren't always addressed promptly or properly. People were deeply let down, and for that I am truly sorry. The middle of the letter was the meat in the sandwich. 5 new changes being implemented as a model for workplace excellence. As his first point, Kotik stated that the company is launching a new zero-tolerance harassment policy company-wide as a way to make up for uneven disciplinary action in the past. Retaliation of any kind is no longer tolerated, having stated that any Activision Blizzard employee discovered to have retaliated against another employee submitting a compliance complaint will be terminated immediately. All harassment and retaliation reports will be investigated to the fullest, including whether or not the personnel receiving the complaint handled it according to their new policies. Point number 2 and 4 were diversity-based. Kotik stated, "We will increase the percentage of women and non-binary people in our workforce by 50% and will invest $250 million to accelerate opportunities for diverse talent. An additional $250 million spent over the next 10 years will be spent in initiatives that foster expanded opportunities in gaming and technology for underrepresented communities." Pay inequality among minorities will also be addressed, although interestingly, Kotik bragged that the US analysis showed that women at the company on average earned slightly more than men for comparable work in 2020. Despite this, he vowed the company will be transparent and post these reports on an annual basis. Point 3 was a short but important one, the end of required arbitration for sexual harassment and discrimination claims. This was one of the talking points brought up by the AbetterUbioft movement, and it's a relief to see this finally addressed by senior management. Wrapping up his letter, point 5 stated that there will be quarterly posted updates on how the company is doing in regard to their workplace initiatives. Kotik stated, "We also will be adding a dedicated focus on this vital work in our annual report to shareholders and in our annual ESG report with information on gender hiring, diversity hiring, and workplace progress." Not to be forgotten, and likely one of the biggest headlines that came out of this letter, was Kotik's choice to cut his salary. "I want to ensure that every available resource is being used in the service of becoming the industry leader in workplace excellence. Accordingly, I have asked our board of directors to reduce my total compensation until the board has determined that we have achieved the transformational gender-related goals and other commitments described above. Specifically, I have asked the board to reduce my pay to the lowest amount California law will allow for people earning a salary, which this year is $62,500. To be clear, this is a reduction in my overall compensation, not just my salary. I am asking not to receive any bonuses or be granted any equity during this time." While there's certainly more that could be said about Activision Blizzard at this time, like coverage on the Emotegate situation, yet another store mount drawing its ire from the community, or even the controversy surrounding the new ex-Blizzard created Notorious Studios, we'll end this segment here. With the investor call coming up on November 2nd, we'll let all of the recent press releases speak for themselves and save less important drama for another time. This isn't really an event, more like a good deal right now. For the remainder of the week, if you go over to the Humble Bundle, you can pick up as part of the Sonic 30th anniversary a large chunk of the modern era of games, including the Sonic Adventure games, Sonic Generations, Sonic Mania, and the 3 Sonic Racing titles. Along with Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2, Sonic Lost World, and Sonic Forces, which aren't the best of the Sonic series, but considering you're getting all that for less than a tenner, consider them freebies. Blizzard still hopes you have your phones as the Diablo Immortal beta has hit the US and Canada Android platforms for its closed beta. This update also comes with the Necromancer class, playable for the first time in the game. Item sets have been added and controller support has been added to test out. Blizzard hope to run this beta for 3 months, as the game is due out early 2022. It's also worth noting that the optional in-game purchases will be active during this beta period, and according to the team, any credit purchases will be converted back to Battle.net credit upon launch of the full title. Although it's still a beta, only spend if you really want to. Full details on the beta release and FAQ will be linked in the description. Those of Hearthstone persuasion will probably want to know that tomorrow, November 2nd, is the release of the United in Stormwind mini-set, Deadmines, which will be added to the game. This 66-card set will add cards based from the WoW dungeon of the same name into the United in Stormwinds pack, or alternatively buy the whole set of cards for 2,000 gold, or $14.99, or whatever your local conversion is. Those that enjoy the Mercenaries mode will find 5 new characters added in this update, along with 3 new bounties and bosses to take on. And a letter just in from management to stop faffing around and get back to digging. That's right, there is a new content update for Deep Rock Galactic, where the team at Ghost Ship Games, now part of Coffee Stain Studios, are bringing a Battle Pass-like system to the game. But fear not, it's 100% free, and according to the FAQ, linked below, will be available for several months, bringing more reasons to drink Blackout Stout and play with the fluffy dice. The update goes live on November 4th for PC and November 18th for Xbox and Game Pass. Finally, Amazon-published MMORPG Lost Ark, yes, the other one, is having a short closed beta between November 4th at 9 AM Pacific Time or 4 PM UTC through to November 11th. Those that have purchased the game's Founders Pack or awarded a key via email by Amazon will be able to preload the beta software tomorrow. This beta will include a higher level cap, a much higher expedition cap, new zones, new skills across all classes, and the introduction of the Striker class. Also of note is that the class prologues have been removed to streamline the game into one story to teach the players the combat systems and the load of keybinds needed to play the game. For more of the changes found in this beta and details on how the beta will work, you'll find the details in the description. And that's it for this week's A Few Bits of News. Tune in next Monday for more news across the gaming industry, and as always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as well as hit that bell to get notified of the next video. If you'd like to chat with us live, then come join me every Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday evening over on Twitch, link in the description. Otherwise, we'll see you in the comments below.